Midsommar, a new film by Ari Aster out in cinemas now, the director of well-received Hereditary from last year. The film centers around Danny, an American student whose boyfriend plans a trip to Sweden with some of his friends. Invited by one of them, Pele, the four guys plan to attend the Midsummer Festival in rural Sweden, where Pele was raised. And despite tensions between Danny and her boyfriend Christian, as well as Danny and the group as a whole, she ends up going with them. When they reach their destination, it turns out that it's sort of a hippie community slash wooden village where the midsummer is taken very seriously. There are festivities involving special pagan rituals, clothes, and even tripping on various kinds of natural drugs. The community seems to be very close with each other, which immediately contrasts with the arriving group. And they also welcome the visitors with open hands and a lot of hospitality. The Americans try to fit in as best they can, obviously not understanding a lot of the stuff that is going on, but trying to go along with it. But as they begin to partake in the activities, it quickly turns out that this is not going to be an ordinary vacation, as things spiral out of control and slowly begin their descent into insanity. Now, the movie was marketed as horror, and it really isn't one, at least not in the traditional sense. It never makes you scared, and it certainly never uses cheap jump scares. Like Hereditary, it has a very atmospheric tone of it, which is designed to just swallow you whole. I find it very difficult to categorize. Really, I guess if someone just put a gun to my head and told me to pick a category, I'd say it's a psychological horror of sorts. It wants to make you feel uneasy, uncomfortable, disturbed, even disgusted at times, and it does so very, very well. Despite quite a long runtime, 2.5 hours, time flies by. I was engrossed completely throughout the film, mainly due to extremely effective atmosphere. I think one of the reasons it's setting the tone really quickly. There's a prologue of sorts to the film where something happens to Danny and really sets the stage for the rest of the film. I will not say what that is because that would spoil the fun. Just know that within the first 10 minutes, he will already be punched in the gut. And the events from the prologue help to establish Danny as a sort of isolated character with almost no meaningful connection to other people around her. And this goes on for the rest of the students in some way. On the surface, they seem jovial and friendly with one another, but really they are each of them on their own. This is all pitted against the Swedish commune with people that are doing some fucked up stuff, more on that later. But beneath all of this, they are a happy family with strong connections between each member. And that theme of isolation is further reinforced by the physical setting of the movie. It takes place in an area of Sweden where the sun almost doesn't set during the night at this time of year. And that automatically makes the characters uneasy and confused as to what's going on. On top of that, of course, you have the very foreign customs and language and just about everything else about the community. Typical horror movies, in order to achieve this sort of isolation feeling, often resort to physical isolation, keeping the characters apart from each other in different scenes. Here, they are almost always together, yet not actually together the way it matters, sorry. And again, typical horror movies operate in darkness mostly, since we often fear what we cannot see, what we imagine instead. Midsommar takes place in the light of day, under the sun, which makes what happens all the more unsettling and creepy. There's this feeling that you can see those things unfolding and you know they're coming at you, but there's nothing you can do to stop them. In general, in technical terms, it is a masterpiece. The framing of the shots, the very careful placements of characters and backgrounds, especially a huge amount of paintings. The visuals as a whole are just beautiful. The music played on folk instruments is properly creepy. It made me think of Witcher 3, actually, the video game, and the sequences with witches. It gives us this very unique vibe of something creeping around the corner, something primal and wild and just unstoppable. I do have to mention that this is a very bold movie and a strong one in terms of what is shown. It doesn't shy away from really weird and maybe disgusting stuff. Even if you're resistant to gore and blood and nudity, I bet this one will still make you wince at times. But again, it's all for a purpose which I think was fully achieved, to drown the audience with this dense atmosphere and make the movie stick in your mind. I'm still floored by it and haven't stopped thinking about it since I walked out of the theater. And weirdly enough, I'm not really creeped out anymore. Hereditary, the previous film, made me want to take a shower immediately afterwards to wash away all this mental filth. But here, the climax and the end sequence, although it cannot in any way be called a happy ending, felt cathartic. And it made me feel like, yeah, I went through hell and back, but now I'm fine. I've survived. I'm at peace. And I guess I am at peace because Ari Aster has not disappointed. Midsommar is terrific.